All right. So Laura Nelson had a lot of things to say to me. She also had a lot of involvement in a lot of this stuff. Um, when I got out of jail in Boulder County in January of 2018, her and her husband come and pick me up. I had an appointment that I needed to go to. Before that, Laura Nelson and her husband come down and they took me to my appointment on the 4th of December or 4th of January 2018 at the Stout Street Clinic. That place is one of the places that is through the Colorado Coalition of the Homeless. So when I talk about Jeff Ritter and I talk about Kara Heller, whose card I have in here somewhere in this massive pile of business cards. Kara Heller, right here. Same place. Stout Street Clinic. Matter of fact, on some of my paperwork that's in this massive pile of shit from Clearview, in Clearview, it talks about that as well. Now, Clearview was obviously a month later, but that's where they shipped me. Now, mind you, my money at the time was in the Lafayette Police Department, and that's where I needed to go in order to get that money. But because the government was paying for it, I wasn't able to go get that money. That taxi driver would only drive me to the Stout Street Clinic. Never mind that, though. This is about what Laura Nelson told me, isn't it? Laura Nelson told me that if I'd have asked her to go into court with me when Amanda Payne was running around town claiming that I was on meth, she said that she would have gone in with me. Now, given the current situation and the fact that she's all hush hush, it is hard to believe that. But I want to believe it. Laura Nelson, she was involved in a lot of different things. She's the one who helped me get the wheelchair that I took to Virginia with me. The wheelchair for Natalie. She busted her leg up. She hooked me up with Melody Harms and um, Miss Duffield, who's our animal control officer. When Lana and Amanda Engeline didn't keep their word to send me money every month for the animals, that very same animal control officer, who I got the wheelchair from, she was providing me with dog food for the dogs that Lana and Amanda pawned off on me and didn't keep their word about. I was able to find almost all of them homes, except for Amanda's dog Chica, who went blind and was shitting all over in the basement. Amanda finally came and got her and put her down, but there was a flood in my basement, and Amanda realized that all of her stuff was ruined, and she was mad at me about it. Life fucking happens, lady. A lot of my shit got ruined in there too. When the city didn't send me my bill every month, they just went, "Oh well, we'll just send them a general $50 bill." And then they did that 2 months in a row. The third month, like, I was able to build my very first welder at Gary Jepson's shop, and I had to sell that welder. It cost me more than $50 in parts, but I had to sell that welder for $50 out of Nettie's Treasures. because, well, even though the city said that they had checked my meter and that really was what my bill was, I was astounded. The next 2 months, my bill was almost $400 for each of those 2 months after that. I had to sell my welder to try to make enough money to make ends meet. Still didn't make enough to make ends meet. On the 4th, when her and her husband took me to the Stout Street Clinic, it was for a dental appointment to get new dentures. I never had dentures. I was hoping that that appointment was for to see a therapist, see Kara Heller and Jeff Ritter, but it ended up not being. It was for a dental thing. Laura Nelson, she she is the one who gave me the vehicle. Well, she didn't give it to me. She sold me the vehicle that I drove to Virginia, the one with the busted steering wheel. She should have come out public about the fact that that steering wheel issue, that steering column issue that I had, that was pre-existing. And I had that in text messages on the phone. If I hadn't lost that phone, that wouldn't be a big major issue. Because when she's too afraid to come forward, at least I had those phones, and if all else fails and she's too afraid to come forward, well, at least I could post those messages. There's a lot of people who didn't say nothing until I lost those phones. And yes, I was very public about losing those phones. I was very public about what happened and how the police treated me. And that, after I lost those phones, that's when these people chose to pounce. Now, I was hoping that they would come forward on their own. I was hoping they would have some remorse about what they had done, but they didn't. None whatsoever. Now, Laura Nelson is of the opinion that a lot of that situation up there at Lana and Amanda's is because they thought they were going to get money. Now, when Laura thinks that I'm recording a video, she won't say that. She'll do this. I know, Laura. I know. And there's a lot of factual basis behind that as well. I mean, there was some GoFundMe's that, well, Lana and Amanda thought that I was getting money from these GoFundMe's. I actually wasn't. That is Stephanie messaging me. Um, when I got up there and they realized that those GoFundMe's were gone because of the situation with Candace and her going out of her way to pull that libel bullshit, try to, well, depending on how you look at it, according to her mother, it was to protect her children. Who is she protecting her children from? That would be the police. But those GoFundMe's weren't there. I didn't get a single penny out of those GoFundMe's. And Lana and Amanda were kind of dependent on that. There was also the money that Layla Missy Johnson Doonan, her mom lady, fuck, she changed her name a lot. And the things that she typed at me about who she really is, I mean, she was just completely full of shit. That Layla lady was just holy fuck. But the situation with that was her friend Lisa, who had rented me that hotel room that I was in when I got this computer here, matter of fact. I was in that hotel room, the Super 8, with Brian Townsend right across from the Walmart where I bought this computer. And her friend, this lady who I looked up, and she was actually a social worker in New York, was going to buy me a computer and send it to Lana and Amanda's house. Well, obviously, she didn't do that. She was also going to send some money for me to live on to Lana and Amanda's house. And I asked Lana and Amanda every day, did she send that? Did she send that? No, Sean, it hasn't showed up yet. It hasn't showed up yet. It hasn't showed up yet. It never showed up. It literally never showed up. But Lana and Amanda were counting on that. So Laura Nelson, about the money, yeah, she might be right. That might be one of many contributing factors to that. The money thing, the fact that Lana was throwing hissy fits every fucking day, the fact that, well, Jamie Curtis was manipulating the situation because she was now dating James again. That was a fucked up situation, isn't it? Now, there was a lot of stuff that, now, mind you, Lana really didn't do shit. While I was up there, Amanda was the one who was doing it. Amanda was the one who was helping with, the making photocopies and shit like that. But also, like as you could tell from the messages between myself and Tim Beeson, that whole being sleep deprived from having that nightmare about Natalie getting into that car accident and shit, yeah, that was what was keeping me up. And Amanda tried pretending like I told her that I was up all night playing video games. I didn't have video games to play. I didn't have any video games that I could play in Montana. None whatsoever. I was still having the same fucking nightmares while I was there. But when it all comes down to it, this video is about what Laura said. Now, Laura, with a lot of the stuff that was going on, she was telling me that she unfriended me because of all the negativity. She couldn't handle it. It made her feel bad. I can get that. I can understand that. At the same time, she should have come forward. She told me that when I was at Candace's, that she saw the cops driving around my house or around Candace's house several times. Said they were probably keeping an eye on me. She should have come forward about that. When she picked me up from the jail, and I was, of course, when she picked me up from the jail, I was, oh my God, my back itches. I was finally able to get my phone back. Well, all right, I take that back. She didn't actually pick me up from the jail. She picked me up outside of Niwot. But we went to Evan G. Fine Park, and I dropped that phone that I had. Although there were so many situations, there were literally, I want to say 2 or 3 times in the month of January that me, Laura Nelson, and her husband met up. And one of those situations was right after I was released from the Boulder County Jail. And I remember that was the situation where I had actually dropped my phone at Evan G. and it cracked the phone. I don't have that phone anymore, but it was the one that I had when Natalie died, obviously. And by that time, it had a screen lock on it. So there's a lot of things that I wasn't able to do with that phone that I was able to do before I went to jail. But after I went to jail, it had that screen lock on it. And later on, Miss Peaches, while I was at Miss Tabby's, helped me to unlock that and get it off the phone. But it really didn't take long before that thing was right back on my fucking phone. Why is there a fucking screen lock on my phone that's preventing me from using the features on that phone? Like, I couldn't share something from YouTube to Facebook anymore on that phone. And Laura Nelson, of course, She was there for that. I bitched about it for probably 10 minutes about that fucking screen lock in her vehicle, and she can say something about that. When I left Candace's, Laura Nelson gave me a ride. Candace gave her $40 to drive me from her house because she was scared shitless of the police. She was scared shitless of public opinion. She was scared shitless of her kids getting thrown out in the cold. Laura Nelson drove me from there down to Niwot. She could have said something about that. The fact that I was suicidal over that situation for a whole year, Laura Nelson knew about that. She could have said something about that. Laura Nelson helped me to get to Virginia. She could have said something about that. Laura Nelson knew about the situation. She's one of the few people that I trusted enough to tell about the fact that Natalie was suicidal before I went to Virginia. She could have said something about that. And should have. Laura Nelson was afraid for her son. And she told me that. And she could have said something about that. But she didn't. She told me that she wasn't answering anything from my phone because anything that came from my phone was giving her issues and it would break her phone. She should have said something about that. When she got her new phone, she said that she wasn't having that issue anymore. She should have said something about that. See, I share things with my friends. I'm honest with them. And I'm honest with them for a reason. But also, if I'm pissed off at them, I'm pissed off at them for a reason. If you can't stand up to these people, they're going to do this to the next generation and the generation after that. I like Laura, I really do. Matter of fact, the last conversation between her and I that I recorded, I haven't put on Facebook or YouTube. She was there when Marie Long, who is my niece's grandmother, Laura Nelson was there when Marie was telling me about Tara moving my niece in with a child molester, a registered child molester in Potter. She could have said something about that. Laura Nelson got to see a lot of the harassment and threats. She could have said something about that. I invited Laura Nelson to a lot of these groups. Crashed Treasures and Airplane Enthusiasts, Real Justice for Natalie Bollinger. I invited her to that so that she could see those things. Since the police wouldn't listen to me because I'm mentally ill, I needed someone to speak for me, and I still don't have that. I have to find somebody that I can give my power of attorney to, and I don't have that. I would have had Brenda Dickinson do it, but I can't trust Brenda Dickinson. I'd have Laura Nelson do it, but Laura Nelson won't. I haven't asked her to because if she's that afraid, she's not going to do anything in my best interest. She's not going to stand up to these bullies. That night with Ted Bollinger and Alicia Bollinger at my grandma's funeral, Laura Nelson should have spoke up then. Now later, in text messages on phones that I no longer have, she said that she's sorry for not speaking up, and she thinks about that every day. She could have said something about that. But the thing is, telling this to a rotten police corps isn't going to do any good. You need to speak out in public. There's a lot of things that Miss Laura was involved in, a lot of things that she knew about. Now, I'm glad that when we went in to talk to the sheriff, that she did speak about being afraid for her son, although she was very hinty about it. She said, "That little boy is all I got. He's all I care about in the world." She told me that, especially right at the beginning, she was afraid of being targeted the way all these other people were. She could have said something about that. I did go to her quite a bit, ask her to go in with me for my own protection and to speak up. She could have said something about that. I told people right from the very beginning, don't tell me anything that you wouldn't tell the police. I made posts, generalized posts that everybody could see as my disclaimer. Don't tell me anything you're not willing to tell the police. And if the police won't listen, I'll go public with it. And I've done that. I've kept my end of the bargain. Thing is, the last time I went in, Laura had some things she wanted to say, but she didn't want to say them on camera because she knew I was going to post it on the internet. And I get that. But the thing is, she can speak out now. The only people she has to worry about are the police and public opinion. You gotta say I shouldn't care what other people think. Why shouldn't I? Laura Nelson cares about what other people think, and for good reason. Brenda Dickinson cares about what other people think, and for good reason. The Bollingers care what other people think, and for good reason. You want me to stop breaking the law, you need to get the law to stop breaking the law. If the law isn't going to stop breaking the law, then I can't get an honest day in court. What the police did nationwide was cover for the wrongdoing of other officers. I was assaulted in every jail that I was in. I was not assaulted by every officer I encountered, but as you guys got to hear between Deputy Holloway and Sheriff Scott DaCosta, they told me two completely different stories. Well, both of those can't be the law. Laura Nelson is afraid of public opinion. She wants to be friends with people who are my predators. Now, there's conversations between myself and Ray Ray on this very YouTube. There's conversations between myself and Amy Spencer on this very YouTube. That's here for you to see, Laura Nelson. There's stuff between me and Graham and me and Tabby and me and Peaches. If I hadn't lost those phones, and I say lost very loosely because a lot of them were stolen, but if I hadn't lost those phones, I wouldn't be nearly as pissed off about these people not coming forward in public because I would come out in public for them. I would take Laura Nelson's text messages and I would post them up here for the world to see, like I've done with so many others. Laura Nelson told me that Scott DaCosta was asking pointed questions. She also said that she thought Scott DaCosta was going to come back because she felt that it was unfinished. She said that Scott DaCosta told her that he knows I was in love with Natalie and that she corrected him. Be nice if she'd come out in public about that. Laura Nelson, there's messages here between me and Mandy Singer, me and Mandy Hughes, me and Alyssa Rainwater. There's conversations between me and Kayla Trujillo. There's conversations here between me and Katie Cahill. There are conversations here between me and Graham. And you know Graham. He slept on your floor, in your store, at my grandma's funeral. She could have spoken out about what happened when that officer came back and what he had to say. She could have spoken out about that. All I'm asking for is the truth. That's all I'm asking for out of any of these people. If they're so afraid of the police that they can't tell the truth, how can I trust them to do anything? How can I? Now, Laura Nelson, obviously, she was willing to go down with me to the police department after knowing the things that I've said, after knowing that I've recorded conversations between her and I. She was still willing to go down there with me. That does say something about my character and my honesty. But she also doesn't want to make waves. She doesn't want to piss off my predators. She's friends with some of them. Just like Polly Olson is friends with some of these officers. Fuck it, right? Laura Nelson said she doesn't even know how to take screenshots in one of those conversations. Well, I should have been more specific. She looked up how to take screenshots on my telephone. That's how I learned how to take screenshots on my telephone. Now, mind you, I'd tried that exact same method before, and it just kept on fucking with my volume or turning off my phone. But she was insistent, and after the third or fourth time of trying it, I finally got it. I learned how to take screenshots on the 19th of December, or the 19th of January of 2018. There's a lot of these people that I haven't gone through and done that whole thing where I hold the camera up and go through it all. You know, some of those people I haven't talked to them in so long. It's a lot of scrolling to even find them. If these people had come forward, it would have made a lot of difference. If Laura Nelson had come forward, it would have made a lot of difference. But did she? Don't get me wrong, I love Laura Nelson, but I love a lot of people. A lot of people who didn't come forward and said that they would. Laura Nelson, she has maintained that she's afraid for her son through all of this. In specific, she's afraid for her son. Now, if you go back in some of these Facebook groups, she actually did speak up, spoke about her son, about how he's not afraid of eyes because of me. She also said that she has to be careful when watching my videos because if she's watching my videos around her son, sometimes it makes her son upset. And I understand why. He doesn't want to see me like that. Just like Jamie's son doesn't want to see me like that. When it came to the situation at Rihanna's, it was a tough thing to deal with because I had to make a choice between Rihanna and Amy Spencer's kids and also my own well being. If I turned in Rihanna about those kids, my own well being was going to be hell. It was going to fuck me severely. But the kids are more important than I am. The same thing with Amy Kalina Kingery. Her kids are more important than I am. The same thing with Amy Witcher. Her kids are more important than I am. Her kids are more important than she is. Her kids are more important than Andrew Witcher by a long shot. Just like with my little sister, her daughter is more important to me than she is. The kids are always more important. With Candace Bondurant, her children are more important to me than she is. With Miss Peaches, her kids are more important to me than she is. But Miss Peaches is not an abusive mother. Miss Peaches is a wonderful mother. Miss Laura is a wonderful mother. Amanda Engeline is a wonderful mother. Candace Bondurant is a wonderful mother. Now I got to tell you, there are a lot of these mothers who have been prostitutes. A lot of them. Amanda Engeline was a prostitute. Laura Nelson knew that. Mandy Hughes was a prostitute. And they're not the only ones that were prostitutes out of that group. Laura Nelson, when I was talking about Amanda Engeline being a prostitute, I said, "Did you know she was a prostitute?" She said, "Well, yeah, those who know, know." Those who know were aware, is what she said. I saw Laura Nelson today. She was quiet. Obviously, she's seen some things that I've had to say about why I'm angry with her. I didn't get the luxury. That sounds like an airplane. Oh, nope, it's a train. Fuck, that'll blind you quick. Oh, good boy. Good boy. Mm. I didn't have the luxury of thinking about my own kids. I don't have any. I didn't have the luxury of thinking about just my kids. I had to think about Laura's kid. I had to think about Amanda Ingeline's kids. I had to think about Rihanna's kids and Amy Spencer's kids and Amy Kingery's kids. I had to think about Mandy Hughes's kids. All of these kids would be better off if their parents told the truth. I had to think about Jamie Curtis's kid. You got to think about what kind of example you're setting for your kids by being too cowardly to tell the truth. You got to think about what kind of an example that you're setting for your kid when you choose drugs over your kids. You got to think about what kind of an example you're setting for your kids when you're teaching them to take part in the playing of two men or three men or five men. You got to think about that. I have no right to speak because I have no kids, right? You guys have to make tough decisions that I'll never understand, right? You think it was an easy decision for me to call in Andrew Witcher? I love Andrew Witcher. I really do. But I don't want him doing drugs around them kids. I don't want him molesting them kids. Do you think it was an easy decision for me to call in Rihanna or to make that video the night before so that if the shit that happened that actually happened, so that it would at least be documented? Do you think that was easy for me? After growing up in the system, do you think it was easy for me to have to make a decision between turning in Rihanna or leaving those kids with her and her alcoholism to be smacked around when she missed her kids? Do you think that was easy for me? I had to think about Danica Garner's kids. I had to think about Rochelle Shelley Campbell's kids. You know, if Alicia Bollinger was to see all of the shit that people did because she didn't come forward with the truth, I think absolutely, if I'd have been able to take screenshots and show her, I believe absolutely she would have asked these people to stop. But Alicia, she's the selfish of the two. She's the selfish one out of the two. If I was to show the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to Alicia Bollinger, I don't know if she'd come forward with the truth. I don't know if she would be apologetic. I don't know if she would repent. But I do know that Laura Nelson coming forward with what she knows, telling the public what it is that she told me, well, it would do a lot of good for all these kids. Brianna came forward already, Laura. Todd came forward already. Jamie's son came forward, for Christ's sake. A lot of these people, I had to come forward for them, but I came forward with their words. Their words. The only reason I had to post these words up here on YouTube and on my Facebook is people didn't come forward in real life like they should have. They didn't write their statements down because they were too afraid, just like you, Laura. Rand Ingersoll, imagine what she has to be afraid of losing because she told the truth. But she still told the truth. And you know what? Rihanna knows that I record these phone calls. She knows that I record these things.